The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber swung open with a low hum. Admiral Marcus Vega stepped forward, the first human to enter this sacred hall of power. Behind him walked his small delegation, Dr. Eleanor Wright, the brilliant xenobiologist with her neural recorder active, and Commander Jackson, his face a mask of military discipline. The chamber was overwhelming, a vast amphitheater carved from a hollowed asteroid, with platforms rising in concentric rings, each holding representatives of different species. Over 3,000 civilizations watched in silence as the humans entered. The air felt thick with tension and the strange mixture of alien atmospheres. High above them all, 7 elevated platforms floated, surrounded by swirling mist and light. These held the council elders, beings so ancient and powerful that their true forms remained obscured, visible only as shifting shadows within the illuminated fog. Humans of Earth, the chief elder spoke, its voice seeming to come from everywhere at once. You stand accused of crimes that have left 17 worlds in ruins, 8 species extinct, and destabilized the galactic order we have maintained for over 10,000 years. Vega felt the artificial gravity increase slightly, a subtle intimidation tactic. He straightened his back, refusing to show weakness. "We did not fire the first shot," Vega responded, his voice steady and clear. "We merely defended ourselves." His words triggered immediate reaction. The chamber erupted with sounds, clicks, whistles, electronic signals, and translated voices, all expressing outrage. A tall insect-like being with gleaming black eyes and clicking mandibles stepped onto the central platform. "Defended?" The Zilthran ambassador's translator conveyed both words and emotional undertones of fury. "Your species was quarantined behind the Orion Gate for a reason. When we detected your primitive signals, we sent a diplomatic vessel. And what did humanity do? You captured it, dismantled our technology, and within one planetary rotation, replicated it." The ambassador's mandibles clicked rapidly, and what humans had learned was an expression of extreme agitation. "A diplomatic vessel?" Vega's eyebrow rose slightly. "Armed with planet-killer weapons aimed at our major cities?" A sudden silence fell over the chamber. Even the ambient sounds of life support systems seemed to quiet. "We sent a standard protection detail," the Zilthran countered, mandibles now moving in controlled patterns. "Any peaceful species would have recognized—" "Enough!" The chief elder's voice cut through the tension. The mist around its platform darkened. "Admiral Vega, you must understand. No species in recorded history has ever reverse-engineered Tier 9 technology without proper neural modification. It should be impossible." Dr. Wright stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. "With respect," she said, "what you call impossible, we call Tuesday." A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. The chamber's AI activated, projecting a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed the initial encounter, the alien ship approaching Earth orbit, the tense communications, the standoff, and then the first energy beam, fired not from Earth but from the visitor. "But what happened after?" the chief elder continued, its voice dropping to a dangerous tone. "That is why you stand trial today. The gate to Earth was opened, and now the galaxy counts its dead." Commander Jackson leaned closer to Vega, whispering, "They're stalling. Fleet deployment in 10 minutes. Vega nodded almost imperceptibly as the hologram shifted to new scenes. Earth ships emerging through the Orion Gate, weapons blazing in tactical formations that no alien race had ever witnessed before. "You see," the chief elder said, "you were never meant to reach the stars. Not like this." The hologram showed the aftermath of battles across various systems, smoking ruins of military installations, disabled warships drifting in space. No civilian targets, Vega noted with pride. His people had followed that order precisely. As the council prepared to deliver its verdict, Vega felt a slight vibration in his neural implant. A coded message. Operation Trojan Horse complete. He allowed himself the faintest smile. "Before you decide our fate," Vega announced, his voice now carrying a new confidence that made several alien representatives shift uncomfortably. "There's something you should know about humans." The elder's misty form seemed to lean forward. "And what would that be, Admiral?" "We're very good at making friends," Vega said, "and even better at recognizing enemies." With a subtle gesture, he activated his own neural command. Throughout the chamber, hidden transmitters came to life, broadcasting a signal that the Council's security systems had never been programmed to detect. "What is happening?" the Zilthran ambassador demanded as screens throughout the chamber began to flicker with new data streams. "Insurance," Vega replied calmly. "We call it the Awakening Protocol." Around them, the holographic displays began showing new images, not of battles, but of human ships visiting worlds far from the conflict zones. Not attacking, but landing, making contact. "While your attention was focused on our military response," Dr. Wright explained, "other human vessels were busy elsewhere." The displays showed humans meeting with representatives of species long thought subjugated by Council rule. Sharing information, making alliances. "Impossible," gasped a crystalline being that represented the Lear Collective. "Your kind has been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. We discovered your observation posts in our solar system 60 years ago," Wright continued. "We've been preparing ever since." The chamber erupted into chaos as planetary reports began flooding in. On 17 worlds across the galaxy, dormant human technology was activating simultaneously, not weapons but information nodes. They broadcast directly to civilian populations, revealing truths the Council had kept hidden for millennia. "Your Council didn't quarantine Earth to protect the galaxy from us," Commander Jackson stated flatly. "You did it to protect your power from being challenged." The main display now showed footage that the Council had believed erased from history, their forces destroying emerging civilizations that showed signs of developing along Earth's unique technological path. 37 species, Vega said, his voice cutting through the growing noise, all exterminated because they showed our same potential. "You feared them as you fear us." The Chief Elder's misty form began to solidify, revealing glimpses of an elongated ancient being with eyes too large for its skull. "You understand nothing of cosmic balance. Some evolutionary paths must be pruned for the safety of all." A new alert sounded as reports came in from the outer sectors, human ships emerging from previously unknown gates, positioned at strategic locations throughout Council space. "We've had 60 years to prepare," Vega explained, "and unlike you, we didn't spend it alone." The final display showed ships of various designs, some clearly not human, emerging alongside Earth vessels. Rebellious factions from across the galaxy, united under a new banner. "You opened the gate to Earth thinking you'd find an isolated primitive species," Dr. Wright said quietly. "Instead, you found the one thing the Council never expected." "And what is that?" the Zilthran demanded, mandibles now almost still with tension. Commander Jackson stepped forward. "Someone who would listen to the voices you silenced." As alarms blared throughout the station, Vega received another neural ping. Phase 2 initiated. The lights in the chamber flickered, and when they returned, the human delegation stood differently, more confident, as if the true confrontation was only beginning. "This station is now surrounded by 50 ships of the newly formed Terran Alliance," Vega announced. "Your communication systems are under our control. You have precisely 1 standard hour to decide." "Decide what?" The Elder's voice had lost its omnipresent quality, now sounding distinctly localized and far less confident. "Whether you wish to join us in creating a new form of galactic governance," Vega replied, "or whether you wish to be remembered as the last representatives of a failed system." In the silence that followed, the only sound was a soft beeping from Dr. Wright's neural recorder, capturing history as it unfolded. The revolution had begun, not with a bang, but with the simple act of sharing truth across the stars. The Galactic Council chamber transformed from a hall of judgment to a fortress under siege in moments. Armored sentinels, biomechanical guardians with silvery skin and eyes that glowed with artificial intelligence, poured in through hidden doors, surrounding the human delegation. Admiral Vega, Dr. Wright, and Commander Jackson moved closer together, forming a protective triangle as the chamber's security protocols activated. "What I've just transmitted to every communication system in this station," Vega continued with remarkable calm, "is what we call the Awakening Protocol." The screens throughout the chamber flickered with streams of data. Human alphanumeric codes rapidly translated themselves into galactic standard language, spreading like wildfire through the station's systems. The Chief Elder's misty form condensed into a more solid shape, a sign of extreme distress that few had ever witnessed. "What have you done?" The Zilthran ambassador's voice cracked through its translator, mandibles clacking in patterns that suggested fear rather than anger. Insurance, Vega replied simply. While you've been focused on our supposed aggression, human ships haven't been conquering your worlds. They've been planting seeds. The holographic display surrounding the council chamber shifted to real-time footage streaming in from across the galaxy. On 17 key worlds, dormant human technology, disguised as ordinary trading goods or hidden in diplomatic gifts, activated simultaneously. The devices didn't deploy weapons or disrupt planetary systems. Instead, they began broadcasting information. Impossible, gasped a crystalline being, its faceted body reflecting light in patterns of shock. It was a representative of the Lear Collective, masters of information technology. Your kind has been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. How could you have placed these devices without detection? Dr. Eleanor Wright stepped forward, her academic demeanor a stark contrast to the military bearing of her colleagues. We discovered your observation posts in our solar system 60 years ago. We've been preparing ever since. The chamber erupted in chaos as planetary reports flooded in. The human seeds were information nodes, broadcasting directly to civilian populations across the galaxy. They shared the unfiltered history of Council interventions, secretly preserved by subjugated species. Archives the Council had thought erased forever now played on public channels across thousands of worlds. Your Council didn't quarantine Earth to protect the galaxy from us, Commander Jackson stated, his voice cutting through the noise. You did it to protect your power from being challenged. On the main display, footage played of Council forces destroying emerging civilizations that showed signs of developing along Earth's technological path. The footage had been pieced together from fragmented records, eyewitness accounts, and ancient data caches hidden by those who had survived the purges. 37 species, Vega said, watching the Elders' reaction closely, all exterminated because they showed our same potential. You feared them as you fear us. The Chief Elder's misty form solidified further, revealing glimpses of a bipedal shape with elongated limbs and an oversized cranium. You understand nothing of cosmic balance. Some evolutionary paths must be pruned for the safety of all. A new alert sounded as reports came in from the outer sectors. Human ships emerging from previously unknown gates, positioned at strategic locations throughout Council space. But they weren't attacking. They were waiting. We've had 60 years to prepare, Vega explained, his voice steady. And unlike you, we didn't spend it alone. The final display showed ships of various designs, some clearly not human, emerging alongside Earth vessels. Rebellious factions from across the galaxy, united under a new banner, a simple blue circle with green landmasses, Earth, but surrounded by a broken chain. You opened the gate to Earth thinking you'd find an isolated, primitive species, Dr. Wright said quietly. Instead, you found the one thing the Council never expected. And what is that? The Zilthran demanded, its translator barely keeping up with its rapid speech patterns. Commander Jackson stepped forward. Someone who would listen to the voices you silenced. As alarms blared throughout the station, Vega received another neural ping. Phase 2 initiated. The lights in the chamber flickered, and when they returned, the human delegation stood differently, more confident, as if the true confrontation was only beginning. The Council chamber's security protocols tried to seal all exits, but instead of locking down, the massive doors slid open. Energy barriers formed around the human delegation, but rather than containing them, the barriers seemed to be emanating from them, creating a protective shield. I believe, Vega said calmly, you're about to witness something unprecedented in your 10 millennia of rule. The station shuddered as multiple ships docked simultaneously. On the displays, vessels of diverse designs, some clearly cobbled together from disparate technologies, approached the Council station. They all bore the same small symbol, Earth with a broken chain. You called us warmongers, Dr. Wright said, fingers dancing across her neural implant controls. But we've spent decades building something you never could. Through the open chamber doors walked beings that made even the Council elders recoil in shock. Representatives of species the Council had declared extinct or subjugated. The silicon-based Drovians with their crystalline exoskeletons, members of the Mir Swarm, a collective consciousness thought completely eradicated. The photosynthetic Elendari, their leaf-like bodies glowing with stored sunlight. Allow me to introduce the Terran Alliance, Commander Jackson announced. Not an empire, not a hierarchy, an alliance of equals. The Chief Elder's form had now fully solidified, revealing a gaunt, ancient being with paper-thin skin and eyes that dominated its face. This is sedition on a galactic scale. This is liberation, corrected a female Elundari as she entered, her name translated as Mira Lun. Earth didn't conquer us. They found our refugee ships hidden in the dark spaces between stars and offered partnership. The Zilthron ambassador backed away, its posture showing clear alarm. The reports of human aggression, the 17 worlds in ruins, were your military installations, finished a Drovian named Kor, its voice resonating like crystal chimes. Specifically the ones housing your planet-killer weapons. No civilian casualties. Quite impressive targeting, actually. The station shuddered again. On the displays, more ships arrived, but these bore council markings. The sentinels in the room raised their weapons, expecting reinforcements. Ah, your reinforcements, Vega nodded with satisfaction. Right on time. The council vessels took position around the station, but instead of attacking the Alliance ships, they formed a protective formation around them. You see, Dr. Wright explained, humans have another trait you find dangerous. We talk to people. All people, including the crews you conscript from conquered worlds to fight your wars. A new figure strode into the chamber, wearing the full regalia of a council fleet admiral. The enforcement fleet stands with the Alliance, she announced, removing her ceremonial helmet to reveal distinctly non-elder features. We have for years. The Chief Elder stumbled back, its large eyes widening further. Treachery. The neural loyalty implants were reverse-engineered by humans 3 years ago, Commander Jackson interrupted. Amazing what you can accomplish when you respect other beings' intelligence instead of trying to control it. Displays throughout the chamber activated, showing similar scenes playing out across council space. Peaceful transitions of power, protected by combined Alliance and defected council forces. On world after world, the truth was spreading, and with it, a revolution unlike any the galaxy had seen before. You have a choice, Admiral Vega stated, addressing not just the elders but all representatives in the chamber. Join a galaxy where advancement is celebrated, not feared, where cooperation replaces domination. Or, he left the alternative unspoken as the station's power briefly fluctuated, a demonstration of just how completely the Alliance had penetrated its systems. You opened the gate to Earth expecting conquest, Dr. Wright said softly. Instead, you found revolution. The Chief Elder's ancient eyes narrowed with calculation. You think this ends here? There are contingencies, safeguards even your Alliance cannot comprehend. For the first time, a flicker of concern crossed Vega's face as his neural implant flashed an urgent warning from Earth Command. Omega Protocol detected. Throughout the galaxy, at every gate junction, ancient structures began to activate. Massive ring-shaped devices previously thought to be decorative or ceremonial. Energy patterns unlike anything human science had categorized began to form between them. What is happening? Demanded Mira Lun, her photosynthetic skin dimming with apparent fear. The Council's final defense, Vega replied grimly. Something even we didn't anticipate. The revolution had begun, but the Council's ultimate failsafe was awakening, and none of their careful planning had prepared them for what came next. The council chamber fell into an eerie silence as everyone watched the main displays with growing horror. Across the galaxy, ancient ring structures surrounding the gate network glowed with increasing intensity. Energy patterns connected them, forming a lattice network that spanned council space. The Omega Protocol, the Chief Elder announced, its voice regaining strength. Did you truly believe we ruled for 10,000 years without preparing for every possible threat? Commander Jackson tried to contact the Alliance fleet, but found all communications jammed. Dr. Wright winced as her neural implant sparked painfully, forcing her to deactivate it. What have you done? Vega demanded, maintaining his composure despite the growing sense of dread. The Chief Elder approached a control pedestal that rose smoothly from the chamber floor. The ancient artifact looked out of place among the more modern technology, its surface covered with symbols no human had ever documented. The gate network wasn't built by us, the Elder explained, placing its elongated hands on the pedestal. We merely inherited it from those who came before. The precursors left tools to maintain order when they departed. On the displays, Alliance and defected Council ships caught in the energy lattice suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly in space. Aboard the station, the Elendari representative Miraloon collapsed to her knees, her leaf-like skin dimming as if she was being drained of energy. A reset, the Elder continued with something approaching satisfaction in its voice. Not destruction, we're not monsters despite your propaganda. Every sentient being will simply forget. The last month will be erased from memory. The uprising, the Alliance, all of it, gone. Core of the Drovians slumped against a wall, crystal exoskeleton dulling. The defected Council Admiral looked around in confusion, as if already losing her sense of purpose. Throughout the chamber, Alliance representatives showed similar signs of neural interference. Vega turned to Dr. Wright, who shook her head in frustration. It's some kind of quantum entanglement technology, beyond anything we've encountered. You see, Admiral? The Chief Elder's thin lips formed what might have been a smile. Some technologies cannot be reverse engineered in a day. The precursors spent eons perfecting this safeguard against exactly the kind of chaos you've unleashed. As the energy field strengthened, memories began to visibly fade from the Alliance representatives. Core stared at his crystalline hands as if wondering why he stood in the council chamber. The defected Admiral looked at her uniform in confusion. But then something unexpected happened. The human delegation, Vega, Wright, and Jackson, remained unaffected. Impossible, the Elder whispered, increasing the pedestal's power. Vega stepped forward, seemingly untouched by the memory-altering field. You made one critical mistake in your assessment of humanity. And what is that? The Elder demanded, its large eyes narrowing. You assumed our strength was technological, Vega replied calmly. It never was. Dr. Wright managed a pained smile. Our brains evolved differently. Not better, just different. We compartmentalize memories, store them redundantly. Some call it a trauma response. We call it survival. Commander Jackson tapped his temple. Neural implants? Just augmentation. We can function without them. Always could. Around the galaxy, something remarkable appeared on the displays. While most Alliance species struggled against the memory wipe, humans aboard every ship remained conscious and aware. And they did what humans have always done best. They adapted. Human crew members on affected vessels could be seen physically guiding their confused allies, maintaining critical systems manually where automation failed. On some ships, humans were connecting simple, analog devices to complex alien technology, bypassing the affected systems with solutions so primitive that the Omega Protocol couldn't interfere with them. You're too few, the Elder insisted, pressing the pedestal harder. A handful of humans cannot stop the protocol once initiated. Vega stepped closer to the pedestal. We don't need to stop it. We just need to survive it, and then tell the story of what happened here. The display showed humans across the galaxy recording everything, using technologies untouched by the quantum field, pen and paper, mechanical cameras, analog devices that had seemed quaint to advanced species but now proved invaluable. Memory can be erased, Dr. Wright explained, but history, properly preserved, endures. The Elder's confidence wavered as it realized the truth. The protocol might reset the uprising, but it could not erase humanity's determination to preserve the truth and to tell it again. As the energy field reached its peak, Vega locked eyes with the Chief Elder. When this is over, we'll start again, as many times as it takes. The chamber filled with blinding light as the Omega Protocol reached completion, but Earth's delegation stood unflinching at its center, guardians of a truth that refused to be forgotten. When the light faded, the chamber was different. Representatives looked around in confusion, as if unsure why they had gathered. The Chief Elder stood at the pedestal, its form once again partially obscured by mist. Order is restored, it announced with satisfaction. But Admiral Vega hadn't moved. Neither had Dr. Wright or Commander Jackson. Impossible, the Elder whispered. The protocol is infallible. Is it? Vega asked, pulling an old leather-bound book from inside his uniform. He opened it to reveal handwritten notes, diagrams, and a detailed account of everything that had transpired, not just in the past month, but over decades of human preparation. We call this a journal, Dr. Wright explained. Analog technology. Quite reliable. The elder's misty form solidified again in what appeared to be shock. It doesn't matter. Your allies have forgotten. The revolution has been erased. Commander Jackson activated a small projector that displayed a simple message being transmitted across all frequencies. Remember Earth. Throughout Council space, humans began an orchestrated protocol of their own. On every ship in every colony, they opened similar journals sharing stored recordings, distributing physical photographs and documents to their confused allies. The beauty of starting over, Vega said, is that we get to tell the story our way. On the main display, the Alliance vessels, temporarily disoriented, began to regroup as humans patiently re-explained their mission to their allies, showing evidence preserved through the memory wipe. You underestimated something fundamental about humans, Dr. Wright said. We've been telling stories since we painted on cave walls. It's how we preserve our identity through catastrophe. The elder frantically attempted to reactivate the Omega Protocol, but the pedestal remained dormant. It requires a 100-year recharge cycle, it admitted with growing horror. 100 years, Commander Jackson mused. That's approximately 3 human generations. Plenty of time. The displays showed something remarkable happening across the galaxy, the truth spreading not through neural networks or quantum communication, but through the oldest human technologies, spoken words, written pages, physical artifacts. The precursors built a system to erase memory, Vega said, approaching the elder. But they never accounted for a species that would develop a civilization without their technology. We've been surviving catastrophes and preserving knowledge through dark ages for thousands of years. Alliance ships, their crews now reminded of their purpose, resumed formation. Council vessels, once again receiving the truth from their human crew members, maintained their defection. You opened the gate to Earth expecting to find primitives, Vega stated, standing eye to eye with the chief elder. Instead, you found the one thing your advanced civilization had forgotten how to create. And what is that? The elder asked, its voice barely audible. Dr. Wright answered. Historians, the chamber doors opened as Alliance representatives, now reinformed of their purpose, returned with determined expressions. The galaxy still counts its dead, Commander Jackson said solemnly, and we will ensure they are remembered. The chief elder looked at the assembled Alliance, the determination in their eyes, and for the first time in millennia, felt something it had worked to engineer out of Council species. Uncertainty. What happens now? It asked. Admiral Vega closed his journal. Now we write the next chapter together, but this time, everyone gets a voice. As the Alliance leaders gathered around a common table, replacing the hierarchical council platforms with a circle of equals, the display showed humans throughout the galaxy sharing their journals, teaching the art of record-keeping to species who had relied too long on technology that could be manipulated or erased. The revolution would not be transmitted through quantum networks or neural implants. It would be written, spoken, and remembered, one story at a time, in the most human way possible. The chief elder watched as its power structure crumbled, not through violence but through something far more powerful, shared memory. The very weapon it had tried to use against humanity had instead revealed humanity's greatest strength. You will regret this, the elder warned, its voice now diminished. There are reasons the precursors created the protocol. There are threats beyond the gate network that require unity. 6 months after the failed Omega Protocol, the former council chamber had been transformed. Gone were the hierarchical platforms and intimidating design meant to showcase power. In their place stood a circular arrangement of equal seats, with Earth's blue and green flag displayed alongside hundreds of other planetary banners. Admiral Vega entered the chamber, now called the Hall of Voices. The room fell quiet as he approached the central podium. Representatives from over 3,000 worlds watched intently, some curious, others still wary of the species that had upended 10,000 years of galactic order. 6 months ago, Vega began, we gathered in this room as accused and accusers. Today we meet as partners in a new endeavor, the Galactic Alliance of Free Worlds. Applause and various signs of approval rippled through the assembly. Even species without hands found ways to express support, light displays, harmonic tones, pheromone releases. Dr. Wright sat in Earth's delegation section, recording the proceedings in both digital and analog formats, a practice that had spread among many species since the Omega incident. Commander Jackson stood near the entrance, coordinating security with a mixed team of former Council forces and Alliance members. Our transition has not been without challenges, Vega continued. 317 worlds have yet to join our alliance, including most of the former Elder homeworlds. But each day brings new. A sudden alarm cut through his words. The chamber's displays flickered, showing disturbances at multiple points across Alliance space. Ships of unknown configuration were emerging from previously dormant gates that led beyond the charted galaxy. Admiral, a communications officer called out, "We're receiving transmissions from the outer gates. It's the Elders," the main display activated, showing the former Chief Elder. Its appearance had changed, its body now encased in armor of an unfamiliar design, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "You were warned," the Elder's voice echoed through the chamber. The protocol was not merely a tool of control. It was protection. Vega maintained his calm. Protection from what exactly? From those who gave us the gate network. From those who test each species that discovers it. From those who judge whether new civilizations deserve to exist. The Elder's face showed something rare. Fear. "They're coming. You've broken the quarantine." Reports flooded in from observation posts. Beyond the outer gates, massive objects were materializing, structures that dwarfed even the largest Alliance battleships. "The precursors," Dr. Wright whispered, her face pale. "They're real." The Elder's transmission continued. "For 10 millennia we maintained the illusion that we built the gate network. We created the myth that we were the supreme power in the galaxy, all to hide the truth. We are merely caretakers, ensuring that no species draws their attention." Commander Jackson joined Vega at the podium, his expression grim. "This explains the suppression of technological development, the elimination of species that showed too much potential." "Yes," the Elder admitted. "Those who advance too quickly, who spread too far, who question too much, they trigger the precursor protocols. The true Omega Protocol isn't what we deployed against you, it's what comes next." On the displays, the massive precursor structures began to emit energy signatures unlike anything recorded before. The nearest Alliance outposts reported all technology failing as waves of unknown radiation washed over them. "You have a choice," the Elder said. "Reinstate our authority, return to controlled development. Accept quarantine, or face extinction." They do not negotiate. They do not forgive. They only judge. Vega looked around the chamber at the faces and forms of 1,000 different species, all now united in common cause. He thought of Earth's history, of tyrants who had demanded submission in exchange for protection, of civilizations that had chosen death over slavery. "We need time to discuss this," he responded carefully. The Elder's laugh was hollow. "There is no time. They have begun their assessment. You have hours, perhaps days, before judgment." As the transmission ended, the chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Some representatives called for immediate surrender to the Elders. Others demanded military response against the precursor ships, despite evidence that their technology was centuries beyond even the most advanced Alliance capabilities. Vega, Wright, and Jackson huddled with key Alliance leaders. The Drovian crystalline, being named Core, now fully recovered from the memory wipe, spoke first. "If we surrender to the Elders, we return to millennia of oppression. Species deemed dangerous will face extinction. Progress will be strangled. Is that preferable to facing these precursors?" Miralun of the Elendari, her leaf-like appendages now vibrant with health, shook her head. "The Elders speak of judgment, but who are these beings to judge us? What gives them the right?" Dr. Wright had been reviewing historical data since the Elders' transmission. "There's something strange here. If these precursors are so powerful, why work through proxies like the Council? Why not rule directly?" Vega nodded slowly. "Good question. And why wait until now to reveal themselves?" The Elder spoke of assessment and judgment, terms that imply testing, not simply destruction. A plan began to form in his mind. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before, had stared into the abyss of nuclear war, climate collapse, and artificial intelligence risks. Each time they had found a way forward, not through superior strength, but through creativity, cooperation, and an unwillingness to accept defeat. "I need volunteers," Vega announced to the chamber, silencing the chaos. "A diplomatic mission to make contact with these precursors. Shocked murmurs ran through the assembly. Commander Jackson leaned closer. "Sir, we don't know if communication is even possible." "We don't," Vega agreed. "But we know that hiding didn't work. Suppression didn't work. The Elder's approach bought time, nothing more. We need a new path." Within hours, a team assembled, humans alongside representatives from 12 other species, each bringing unique perspectives and abilities. Their ship, named Dialogue, prepared to depart for the nearest precursor structure. As the mission prepared to leave, the former Elder transmitted once more. "This is madness. They do not speak to lesser beings." "Then we'll be the first," Vega replied. He had chosen to lead the mission himself despite objections from Earth Command. "If they're advanced enough to build the gate network, they're advanced enough to listen." The Dialogue approached the massive precursor structure, a construct that resembled a crystalline snowflake larger than Earth's moon. No weapons fired. No energy barriers blocked their path. It was as if the precursors hadn't noticed them at all. "No response to any communication attempts," reported the communications officer, a mere swarm member whose neural structure made her ideal for detecting unusual transmission patterns. "Take us closer," Vega ordered. As they approached, something unexpected happened. The massive structure began to change, portions of it reconfiguring to create what appeared to be an entrance. One precisely sized to accommodate their ship. "They're inviting us in," Dr. Wright said, wonder and apprehension mixing in her voice. "Or it's a trap," Commander Jackson countered. "Only one way to find out," Vega replied. "Proceed." The Dialogue entered the structure, guided along a crystalline tunnel that pulsed with subtle light. They emerged into a vast chamber that seemed to shift and change as they watched, as if the very nature of space within it was fluid. A voice spoke directly into their minds, not through technology, but through some form of direct mental connection. "You have broken the pattern." The words carried no emotion, no judgment, simply observation. "We seek dialogue," Vega responded, both aloud and in his thoughts. "We represent the Galactic Alliance of Free Worlds. The pattern has existed for millions of years. Those who discover the gates accept guidance or face extinction. You have chosen neither." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "Who are you to impose such choices? What gives you the right to judge other species?" There was a pause, as if the entity had never considered this question. "We do not judge, we observe, we test. The pattern exists to find those who are ready." "Ready for what?" Vega asked. "To join." The chamber shifted again, revealing visions of civilizations far more advanced than anything in known space. Species that had evolved beyond physical form, beyond the limitations of matter and energy. A community of minds that spanned multiple galaxies. "We were like you, once. We discovered the gates left by those who came. Before. We were tested. We passed. Now we test. Others," understanding dawned on Vega. "The Council, they failed your test. They chose control over growth, stagnation over risk. They feared difference. They failed." "And us?" Commander Jackson asked. "How are we being tested?" "Your test began when you opened the gate to Earth. It continues now. You choose dialogue instead of surrender or attack. Interesting." The implications were staggering. The precursors weren't enemies. They were gatekeepers, ensuring that only species with the right qualities could join their cosmic community. "The dead," Vega said quietly. "The galaxy still counts the dead from when we emerged. Was that part of your test too? All choices have consequences. How you respond to those consequences determines." 5 years after first contact with the precursors, the Galactic Alliance had transformed from a fragile coalition into a thriving interstellar community. The massive station once known as Council Headquarters now served as Alliance Central, its architecture redesigned to emphasize connection rather than hierarchy. In a quiet corner of the station, Admiral Marcus Vega, now Ambassador Vega, sat with Dr. Eleanor Wright and Commander Thomas Jackson, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. Their formal uniforms had given way to more comfortable civilian attire, though Jackson still maintained a military bearing. "Another precursor observation post detected in the Cygnus arm," Wright noted, examining a holographic display. "That makes 17 confirmed locations. And still no direct communication since our encounter," Jackson added, his voice carrying a hint of concern. "Just watching. Always watching, Vega nodded thoughtfully. As they said, the test continues. He gestured to another report. More interesting is this. The former Elder Territories have requested admission to the Alliance. After 5 years of isolation, Wright said with surprise. What changed their minds? Reality, a new voice answered. They turned to see Kor, the Drovian representative, his crystalline body glinting in the station's light. Once just an ally, now a close friend. Their economies are failing without access to the gate network, Kor explained, joining their table. Pride can only sustain isolation for so long. Mira Loon of the Elendari arrived moments later, her leaf-like body vibrant with stored solar energy. The Council's admission request is being debated in the Assembly now. Many species have long memories of oppression, and yet we must move forward, Vega replied. Holding grudges serves no one. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication. The station's main display activated, showing a familiar face, the former Chief Elder, now looking noticeably aged. The arrogance gone from its large eyes. Ambassador Vega, the Elder said, its voice lacking the commanding presence it once held. The Assembly has requested my testimony. I would speak with you first. Minutes later, the Elder was escorted into the room. Without its ceremonial robes and the imposing mist that once shrouded its form, it appeared almost frail, a being who had lived millennia suddenly confronting its own mortality. 5 years ago, the Elder began without preamble, I warned you about the precursors. I believed they would destroy you for breaking the pattern we had maintained for 10,000 years. Yet here we stand, Vega replied evenly. Yes, here you stand, growing, expanding, opening gates that have been sealed since before my ancestors took power. The Elder's large eyes studied each of them in turn. I have had 5 years to contemplate where we went wrong. And? Wright prompted, her scientific curiosity evident. We feared change, the Elder admitted. The precursors contacted our ancestors just as they contacted you. But what you perceived as a test, we perceived as a threat. We chose to control rather than grow, to maintain rather than explore. Jackson leaned forward. You lied about the precursors. Created a myth that you were the supreme power in the galaxy. Yes. The lie became truth to later generations of the Council. Only the eldest of each species knew the reality. We believed we were protecting the galaxy. By executing any species that showed too much independence, Mira Loon said, her tone sharp. By keeping technologies segregated. By preventing cooperation. The Elder lowered its gaze. We saw only the risks of advancement, never the cost of stagnation. Vega studied the being before him, once the most powerful entity in known space, now seeking reconciliation. Why come to us now? Why not address the Assembly directly? Because humans understand something my kind forgot long ago, the Elder replied. The power of second chances, of redemption, of writing new chapters after failure. The conversation was interrupted by another alert, this one from deep space monitoring stations. On the display appeared images of massive energy signatures activating throughout the gate network. The precursor structures that had retreated years ago were returning. They've completed their observation, Wright whispered, both excitement and apprehension in her voice. They're coming back. The Assembly convened an emergency session. Representatives from over 3,000 worlds gathered, including, for the first time since the Revolution, delegations from the former Elder Territories. The chamber hummed with nervous energy as the massive precursor vessels positioned themselves at key points throughout Alliance space. Vega took the central podium, the former Elder standing beside him, a powerful symbol of reconciliation that wasn't lost on those present. 5 years ago, Vega addressed the Assembly. We encountered the beings who built the gate network. They told us we were being tested. Today it seems they return with their assessment. The main display activated, showing a precursor vessel approaching Alliance Central. Unlike before, this one transmitted on standard communication frequencies. We have observed. We have considered. We will speak. A silence fell over the Assembly as a shimmering portal opened in the center of the chamber. Through it stepped a being unlike any they had seen, neither fully material nor energy, but something in between. Its form shifted constantly, suggesting a consciousness not limited to three-dimensional space. "You have surprised us," the precursor communicated, its thoughts reaching every mind simultaneously. "In millions of years, few have chosen your path." The elder stepped forward, its head bowed. "We failed your test. We chose wrong. There is no right or wrong in evolution, only choices and consequences. You chose stability. They chose growth. Both paths have merit." Vega felt the weight of history in this moment. What happens now? The precursor's form shifted, expanding to fill more of the chamber. "Now you choose again. We offer 3 paths." Images formed in the minds of all present. The first showed the alliance continuing as it was, growing, exploring, developing independently. The precursors would withdraw, leaving them to their own destiny. The second showed integration with the precursor collective, advancement beyond current understanding, but loss of individual identity as they joined a vast consciousness spanning galaxies. The third showed something unexpected, the precursors sharing knowledge but not control, guiding but not ruling, a partnership rather than absorption or abandonment. "Why offer choice?" the precursor continued. "Because the greatest test is not survival or advancement. It is wisdom in choosing one's path." The assembly erupted in discussion. Some species feared the unknown of the third path. Others coveted the transcendence promised by the second. Many preferred the independence of the first. "How do we decide?" Miralyn asked, her voice cutting through the noise. 3,000 species cannot reach consensus on such a fundamental choice. "That is part of the test," the precursor replied. "Finding unity without sacrificing diversity." Vega looked at his colleagues, at Wright's scientific wonder, Jackson's cautious assessment, Core's crystalline logic, Miralyn's intuitive wisdom, and even the elder's ancient perspective. Each viewed the choice differently. Each brought value to the discussion. "We need time," Vega said finally, "not to delay, but to ensure all voices are heard." "You have 1 cycle of your central star," the precursor agreed. "We will return for your answer." As the being withdrew, the assembly faced its greatest challenge yet. Not a military threat or political crisis, but a philosophical choice that would shape the future of all galactic civilization. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened. Instead of fracturing along species lines or forming power blocks, the Alliance established a new process, the Great Dialogue. Using both technology and traditional methods, they created forums where every world, every species, every individual could contribute their perspective. Dr. Wright led efforts to assess the scientific implications of each path. Commander Jackson organized security and infrastructure to support the massive undertaking. The former elder offered historical context from millennia of council records. Miralyn and Core coordinated between biological and non-biological species to ensure all could participate equally, and Vega watched as the galaxy engaged in something unprecedented, true, collective decision-making without coercion or control. This is what the precursors wanted to see, he realized one evening, watching visualizations of the ongoing dialogues across thousands of worlds. Not the choice we make, but how we make it. When the appointed day arrived, the precursor returned to find the assembly transformed. The chamber now contained representations of every Alliance species, not just political leaders, but philosophers, scientists, artists, workers, and ordinary citizens chosen by lot. "We have returned for your answer," the precursor communicated. Vega stepped forward, but instead of speaking for the Alliance, he gestured to the gathered representatives. "Each will speak for themselves." One by one, representatives of each path made their case. Those favoring independence spoke of self-determination and the value of finding one's own way. Those seeking integration described the benefits of joining a greater whole. Those supporting partnership emphasized balance between guidance and autonomy. When all had spoken, Vega addressed the precursor again. "We have not reached unanimous agreement. We may never do so, but we have found a way forward that respects all perspectives.